Hi there, I am Marc. I'm a graduate advocate here at Liverpool Hope University. We're in the science faculty. This is Associate Professor David Reid. We're just going to be talking to him a little bit today about questions that students will give us on the Roadshow bus. Within the faculty here we have different subjects. So we have geography and environmental sciences. We also have psychology, maths and computer science, and also the health sciences, so things such as sport. Within here we have psychology and nutrition labs. We are now in the robotics lab, as you can see behind me. We also have a gym within this facility, so it's £25 and that's it for the year. Within that you have your sports hall, gym, classes, everything else is included. So now we're going to do some of the questions that we have from our students who came to our Roadshow bus. These are questions for David. So we have a question from a student who came to the Roadshow bus, and it says, tell us what it's like to study a subject within the science department at Liverpool Hope.
One of the key aspects of studying at Liverpool Hope University is that you're taught by people who are really experts in the field. And unlike in a lot of other universities where you probably get postgraduate students doing things like seminars, all of the staff do seminars and tutorials here. And the other thing is that class sizes are quite small. So at most we get 35 to 40 people into an actual lecture, and the seminars themselves are only about 20 in size. So it means you get a very one-to-one relationship. And the beauty of that is you can basically tailor a lot of the curriculum and understand the strengths and weaknesses of individual students and know what they're good at and what they need a bit more help at. And that comes to the fore very much so, particularly in the third year and the dissertation year where they specialise in a specific subject. So in general, the broad topics that we cover on the computer science course and on the IT course, classic pyramid shape. So at the start, we basically assume hardly any knowledge about computer science or IT. And up until about Christmas, we basically get everyone onto the level playing field. So we teach them the basics, the core aspects of computer science and IT. Then after that, we basically give lots of little taster sessions, really. So we do taster sessions on AI, taster sessions on VR, taster sessions on lots and lots of different areas of computer science. Yes. And then later on, what we do in the second year, we start to specialise a little bit more. Now, in the second year, we cover the core bases, really. So we look at things like web technologies and databases and communication systems and things like that. So in the third year, we become really specialised then. And in the third year, the curriculum changes quite regularly. We try to introduce really innovative stuff in the third year. So for the last 5 or 6 years, we've been teaching VR and AR. We're introducing AI into the third year. We've got lots of new technologies that we actually incorporate into the curriculum to the third year. Very often we're the first in the UK on doing that in the third year. And what we find, it gives our students a really good, unique selling point. When they go out to look for jobs, there's nothing better than if you can sit at one side of the desk and tell somebody who's basically interviewing on the other side of the desk so that they don't know, or they can make their business better. Yeah. And we do that using new technologies. And it's the same if they go into research.
What's the difference between a Bachelor of Science Computer Science or a Bachelor of Science in Information Technology? So what is the difference between them two degrees?
Yeah, well, I'd say the Bachelor, a BSc in Computer Science and a BSc in IT. A Bachelor's in IT is more using the computer to achieve an objective.
Right, okay.
Whereas a Bachelor in Computer Science is understanding what goes on underneath the hood, actually how the computer works. So in one aspect of the course, you're basically using the computer as a tool. That's the IT aspect of it. And you could be creating stuff, you could be programming it to a certain extent, but essentially using it as a self-entity, as a tool in itself, as an entity in itself. With the computer science course, you're basically understanding how the computer works, and you're looking far more into the nuances of what goes on inside the thing and what the theory behind computer science as a discipline is in itself.
Right, okay. We have another question here from a student, David. It's what is the difference between a Master's in Engineering and a Bachelor's in Engineering?
Yeah, well, basically the easy answer to that one is a Bachelor's in Engineering is 3 years and a Master's in Engineering is 4 years. Essentially, they cover the same things in the first 3 years, really. But somebody who goes on to the B-Eng course and then can decide to do an M-Eng instead and stay on for 4 years. Obviously, that's a postgraduate qualification, a Master's in Engineering. In the BEng course itself, you'll cover again all the basics of robotics and electronic engineering, looking at things like the robotics operating system, small devices, sensors, and all that sort of stuff. Really, mechatronics to a certain extent. The main difference is for the MEng, you'll start looking at more advanced topics in robotics in the fourth year to do the MEng. So you'll be start to look at things like artificial intelligence and vision systems, and advanced mechatronics, and things like haptics as well, which is basically when you get force, you can feel objects using robotic devices. And you'll start to look at more exotic robotic equipment in the MEng course itself. You've got to remember that robots come in all different shapes and sizes. So when people have a vision of what they think a robot is, very often you're probably interacting with a robot on a daily basis and don't realise it.
Yeah.
So we start looking at different types of robot, and we start looking at really the specialities within the department of the MEng part of the course itself.
What careers can you go into when you do get this degree?
So that is a lot of careers really,
Right,
and it doesn't even have to involve robotics really, because we touch on elements on the course that are really in demand. Things like artificial intelligence and vision systems. I think there was a statistic in just been released literally today that since 2014 the demand for people who are experts in artificial intelligence has gone up by 498%.
Right, okay.
So there's a massive shortage. It's actually it's being noted at government level now that they need to get people. We've got a shortfall that's actually affecting our economy really seriously because of a lack of expertise. What distinguishes our robotics course from a lot of other ones is, in the past, robotics courses have been essentially talking about industrial robotics. So things like you might see in typically a car plant, understanding how those robots work. So they have a lot less interaction with the environment, whereas robots are starting to come out of the factory now and start appearing in other places as well, and that trend will continue. So things like automated cars, automated systems, even things like voice activated systems like Alexa or Google at home, they can be considered robotic systems as well, where you've got some type of interaction with them. So they start to come out of the factory and start to be used into real life. And we see that trend accelerating in the future as AI gets more sophisticated, and as technology increases, you'll see more and more robots being interacted with on a daily basis. So there's a whole branch of robotics coming up now about how to actually design the human interface to the robot itself, so it's more natural to interact with, and how the robot itself can interact with a messy environment that we live in a more realistic and rugged way.
So another question from a student is, can people actually go into research from doing this degree?
Yes, very much so. We've got a number of experts in the department who are experts in robotics and various aspects of robotics as well. Again, like computer science, robotics is a vast field. You can't be a specialist in all areas. So we've got experts in kinematics, we've got experts in soft robotics, where you basically use soft materials to build the robots from. We've got experts in AI, vision systems and so forth. In fact, one of our PhD students is currently working on a haptic device, a force feedback device that allows something called a Da Vinci robot, which is used by surgeons to do surgery remotely via robotics. So you can actually feel what you're touching on. So it makes it far more tactile. It completes the feedback to the surgeon itself. So there's lots of research areas, loads of research areas, and the research areas are growing daily.
Right, okay, so I'd like to just thank you, David, for answering our questions from our students. I'd like to thank every student who did send a question into the Roadshow bus, or who attended the Roadshow bus and had a question for David, or anyone within the faculty. Do look out for the Roadshow bus and where it is going next, and hopefully there'll be more questions to follow with different faculties within the university.